everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday. As I said, solo act today in for Charlie O. Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back with us tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific. We'll have Nate Miller on as well. Nate Miller of the Fishbowl Radio Network does a show, the Basement Show, for them as well, as also a writer, a beat writer for the Texas Rangers. Why we talk about the Texas Rangers? Because they're going to be big players in the Major League Baseball trade deadline. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Mondays at 3 Eastern, Thursdays at noon Eastern right now, and then every Friday at 1 Eastern. Facebook and YouTube Live. You can download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. We appreciate all the support. Also, you can get to us on all social media, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, at VParty Sports, at MTMAR Podcast. Our email is mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's get to it. Coming up on the show, we'll talk a lot of baseball, trade deadline a week away. Lots of series going on right now. The second shot heard around the world. Last night on the West Coast, a lot of you on the East Coast may be sleeping, but may have been sleeping, but missed it. Apparently, Wilmer Flores woke a lot of people up in San Francisco. And Tyler Rogers came in and did the job the second day in a row. We'll get to all that. Yankees Red Sox start today. Braves Phillies. Lots of good series coming in this weekend, as well as we go to Major League Baseball. But let's start with the NBA. We haven't had a chance to talk to you. We were either going to have a Game 7 tonight, or we were going to have a NBA championship. And sure enough, we had an NBA championship. The Milwaukee Bucks, 105-98 victory over Phoenix on Tuesday to win the championship, the first time in 51 seasons, 50 years, 1970, 1971. They won 4-2 over Phoenix. Giannis Antetokumpo, you've heard of him, right? The Greek Freak, 50 points. He drops a 50-piece on the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, everybody says he's got limitations, can't shoot a jump shot, should never take a three. Obviously, should not do a lot of that, but you got to do it every once in a while to keep teams honest. But they couldn't stop him on the inside. He put up 50, 14 boards to lead the way. Bobby Portis, if you haven't heard of him, he opted out of his contract from the New York Knicks in 2020. He was scheduled to make $22 million by the Knicks. He signs with the Milwaukee Bucks for about $3 million. Biggest player off the bench last night. He and Connaughton, the two guys off the Milwaukee bench, they played with a 7-man team through this whole series. The Phoenix Suns covered every game in this series except for Game 5 at home, where they lost at home to Milwaukee, and that unfortunately put them down 3-2. Teams that win Game 5s in best-of-7 series in the NBA go on to win the championship 72% of the time. And Milwaukee, even though they had a 16-point lead at the half, they came back and Phoenix came back and took the lead at the half. We'll get to that in a second. But Chris Middleton, 17 points. He was 6 of 11 from shooting. Drew Holiday, 4 of 19 shooting. He only had 12 points. But the defense was key on Devin Booker. As you see, Milwaukee covered all the home games as they did. They were 4.5-point favorites. The game stayed under the total of 221.5. Only one dog covered. We said that was Milwaukee in Game 5. Chris Paul had 26, but Devin Booker only had 19 points, 8 of 22 shooting, 44% shooting as a team, 6 of 25 from three-point field goal range. Milwaukee up 16 in the first, and then outscored Phoenix by 7 in the fourth, 28-21, to break a third-quarter tie. Phoenix came back in the second quarter. In fact, had a 5-point lead, looked pretty good as an underdog, 47-42 chance of a Game 7, based on the fact the Suns didn't lay down from a 16-point deficit in the first quarter. But here's what happened. Second half, Milwaukee, 56% shooting to Phoenix's 44%. 26-15 advantage in the rebounds. 16 of 19 from the free throw line, including Giannis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Didn't matter. 12 of 13 from the free throw line. The game was tied at 77 after 3 quarters, but the defense came through in the fourth quarter. 28-21 in the fourth. 8 for 21 shooting for Phoenix. 0 for 8 from the three-point line for Phoenix. Booker could not get going. Chris Paul had a decent game, and of course the rebounding edge took place in favor of Milwaukee. 14-8. Milwaukee wins. They win the championship. They solidify Mike Budenholzer and his defense. The way his strategy goes, it was improbable to begin with, down 2-0. How many of you had the Phoenix Suns beating up Milwaukee in the series? That it was going to be Phoenix series, and you could hope Milwaukee only gets one game. Defense came out to play in Game 3 and Game 4 in Milwaukee. Game 5, they went back. Giannis put everybody on their back. And then Game 6, it was a team effort. Giannis had 50, but the defensive effort was outstanding by Milwaukee. Thought Phoenix had a chance to cover the 4.5 points at the end of the game, but 0 for 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter. That won't do it. 105-98, the final score. The Milwaukee Bucks are the champions. Now, they've already come out with odds. We're not going to do the odds here. It's way too early to come up with the NBA odds, although they are going back to a regular time frame in the NBA. They're going to start in October for the NBA season to start up again. So it's going to be interesting to see how they are. But they have the Brooklyn Nets. Odds makers in Vegas have the Brooklyn Nets at plus 225. The Lakers are second, and Milwaukee was fourth. I can't remember. Phoenix was down ways away too. Chris Paul, free agent. He not sure if he's going to sign. There's already rumors that he's looking that he may be going somewhere else, depending on what Phoenix wants to do. Phoenix has a good nucleus, and I think one more year with Chris Paul would be really good. But Chris Paul did not have a great series after the series that they had against Denver and the Clippers. Chris Paul did not have a good series in the last few games. But yesterday or Tuesday, he had 26 points. He shot 50% from the field. It was all good in terms of Chris Paul, who came out to play. But Devin Booker, 2 straight 40-point games, could not get it going in Game 6, and he ended up 4 of 19. I think what was it? 4 of 19 I saw. 8 of 19 I saw for 19 points. The Milwaukee defense was great. They came back in the fourth quarter after Phoenix had overcome a 16-point deficit, said they had a 5-point lead at the half. Only 89 points at the half, way under the total, but the fact it got to 193 means they got 104 in the second half. So pretty good odds in terms of the unders. The unders stayed under for most of the series. 2 games went over. Game 5 went over, and Game 2 went over in this series. But every other game went under. Phoenix covered and won both their home games. They lost Game 5 as a favorite. Milwaukee won and covered all their home games as a favorite in Milwaukee. The Deer District, how are you feeling? How about that crowd out there in Deer District? I know it's per capita, but boy, that sure looked like Madison Square Garden. That sure looked like the downtown Times Square. It looked like any big city around the arena. 35,000 people were the reports up there for that series. It reminded me of, I live in the Bay Area. It reminded me when the Giants were winning the World Series in 2010, 2012, and 2014. The parks around the area, the park around the ballpark, all the restaurants, they were all packed as well too. So very interesting to see how Milwaukee will respond. Mike Budenholzer, remember, was on the hot seat all year. And even our Charlie O even said there was a time where he thought that he may not survive the season or he may not be back next year. And who knows what happens. But the fact is, Mike Budenholzer is a champion. The Milwaukee Bucks are the NBA champions. And how great was it to see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, John McLaughlin, the little less known Milwaukee Bucks crew from that championship team. John McLaughlin, for those that don't know, longtime analyst on TV for the Milwaukee Bucks. And so he was there. He was a teammate of all those guys back then in the 1970s. UCLA connection with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then Lou Alcindor when they won with Drew Holiday. What a job of defense. Obviously, Drew Holiday didn't have a good offensive series, but boy, did they come out and play defense after the first 2 losses. They got embarrassed in the first 2 games. Did they come out and play defense on on Devin Booker and Chris Paul? Mike Budenholzer developed a great game plan. There's going to be a lot of teams that copy it, especially wherever Chris Paul goes. That pick and roll was deciphered and dominated in certain areas of the game, and Phoenix comes up short. I know the narrative is going to be Chris Paul doesn't win it again. It's all on Chris Paul. It's not on Chris Paul. You have to be able to shoot. He did what he could. He had bad games, yes, but Devin Booker was outstanding. He had one bad game and cost him at the end. But the fact the Phoenix Suns got there is good for them. And they're 6th or 7th in the NBA odds. We'll have the NBA odds later on. It's way too early. I know Las Vegas already put out the NBA odds for 2021, 2022 with the Brooklyn Nets being the favorites to win. We'll see if that happens. We'll see if the trio can coexist with Durant, Harden, and Kyrie Irving. But as of right now, the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks concluded what turned out to be a really good series. I know they're not 2 major markets. Probably a lot of people couldn't name a lot of guys on those teams. But obviously the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokumpo, 50 points, 14 rebounds. What a game he had. And for all those detractors of his outside shot and his 3-point shooting and his free throw shooting, try and stop him on the inside. Not many people could, not many teams could, and he went in there and he dominated. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be, if he works on his game a little bit more. And the best part about him is he's so humble about it, because even he said in the press conference that he still needs to improve his game and much more than what people saw today. And if there's much more improvement to go with Giannis Antetokumpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, they're in for a lot of years. Remember, he signed a super max with Milwaukee. He could have gone to a big team, but he showed his loyalty. He stayed in Milwaukee. And you know what that means? Don't you think other free agents are going to come and sign with Milwaukee with a chance to play with the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokumpo? Holy cow, 50 points, 14 boards. The Milwaukee Bucks, didn't think I'd see it in the last 15 to 20 years. They had some good teams in the 80s when Don Nelson was coaching them, and Marcus Johnson and Junior Bridgman, guys like that. How you doing, Wisconsin? You must be feeling good right now. Certainly takes all the pressure off the Aaron Rodgers talk right now as training camp comes up in about 2.5 weeks. But your Milwaukee Bucks, NBA champions, they deserved it. They played well. Defense was great. Mike Budenholzer off the hot seat. It'll be interesting to see where they take it from there as well. But Giannis Antetokumpo. How about Giannis Antetokumpo yesterday too, by the way? Went to a Chick-fil-A and on his Instagram Live, put it up there, got permission. Actually, he must know something. His media people must know something, because he was headed to breakfast at Chick-fil-A after, I'm not sure how much sleep he got the night before, probably not a lot after the celebration, especially the Deer District, that whole area of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Waukesha. I don't know the other cities in there. I got friends in Wisconsin. Let me know some of the other cities that are partying up in Wisconsin on Facebook right now and YouTube Live as well. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or you can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Find the logo up there and get the podcast, Make the Money and Run. Our world-famous unsponsored pick segment comes at the end. The Milwaukee Bucks, NBA champions, Giannis Antetokumpo, 50 points, goes to Chick-fil-A the next day. Check it out on Instagram Live on his Instagram page. Goes to the Chick-fil-A drive-thru, asks them for a 50-piece, not a 49-piece, not a 51-piece, wanted to get a 50-piece. And don't you think the employees at Chick-fil-A for breakfast, I didn't realize Chick-fil-A was a breakfast place as well, too. I'm not sure if it is in California or not. I don't even know if there's any Chick-fil-A's around in the area in San Jose where I live, or in Northern California where I'm stationed at. But I know they're very popular in the Midwest and in the Southeast as well. But 50-piece nugget for Giannis last night in the game, or 2 nights ago in the game, and 50-piece order at the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A. All right, a lot of baseball to talk about. We'll get to that. Big 4-game series. Did you see the shot Wilmer Flores hit off Kenley Jansen? And Dodgers fans, I am one of you, but to boo Kenley Jansen off the mound like that, totally uncalled for. He's been great this year. Dodgers have many more problems than Kenley Jansen right now. We'll discuss all that and more. Major League Baseball, some 4-game series closing out, some 4-game series starting. Charlie O and I will talk to Nate Miller tomorrow of the Basement Show, Fishbowl Radio Network, and also a beat writer for the Texas Rangers, Joey Gallo, Kyle Gibson, other names on the Texas Rangers up in trade talks. Everybody wants Joey Gallo, Kyle Gibson, a very sought-after starting pitcher for a lot of teams right now. So a lot of guys in there. We'll also talk some trade deadline as well, as next Friday, the 30th at 4 Eastern, will be the trade deadline. They wanted to, usually it's July 31st, but they wanted to do it on July 30th because of afternoon games on that Saturday. So they moved it back one day to 4 Eastern. And remember, that's the only trading deadline they're going to have in 2021. There's going to be no waiver trades after July 31st. So whatever you do on July 31st, that's it. There's going to be no more unless you pick somebody up off waivers. All right, Milwaukee Bucks, NBA champions. Congratulations to them. Mike Budenholzer, you deserved it. Giannis Antetokumpo, you're a superstar. Don't let the free throws bother you. Come back and work on that. By the way, 16 of 19 for Giannis from the free throw line, 12 of 13 in the second half from the free throw line. You think any of that bothered him? Probably not. All right, a lot of baseball to talk about. Our pick segment coming up. Vasu Vaddiparty solo act here, the Make the Money and Run podcast for Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. We'll see you in 30 on the other side. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast. Vasu Vaddiparty solo act here for Thursday, July 22nd on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you miss any of the podcasts, you can get it on the subscribe, download, and subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get it on social media, anywhere you get your podcasts. Make comments to us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. You can send us emails, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at mtmarpodcast, and my Instagram page, at VParty Sports, on Twitter at VParty Sports as well too. Charlie and I have social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. Also, Make the Money and Run has a social media page as well on Facebook. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Today being Thursday, 3 Eastern, 12 o'clock on Mondays, noon Eastern, 9 o'clock on Thursdays, and then tomorrow, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. Once again, Nate Miller will be our guest tomorrow from the Basement Show on Fishbowl Radio Network. He's a beat writer for the Texas Rangers as well, too. He and Billy Ball have a great show. Wanted to give them a shout-out. I'm on their show every once in a while, and I appreciate it every time I'm on there with them. And I'm looking forward to having Nate Miller talk Texas Rangers baseball, trade deadline, and what's going on down there in the American League West, because they are close to Houston as well, too. All right, let's get to the National League. Let's go through the lines here real quick for the National League. Not a big slate of games tonight, and actually those are the games from the other day. So let's go back. Let's take that out of here. Those are the games from Monday, as a matter of fact, when we did our last show. Let's get to the National League games. Not a lot of games that we have today. Philadelphia Phillies are going to start a 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves. 130 for Atlanta, Charlie Morton and Matt Moore. 8.5 the total. It actually has gone up to 9 in Philadelphia. Charlie Morton's been good in some spots. He's been really bad in other spots. The Tampa Bay game last weekend, proof of that as well. St. Louis, Chicago also finishing up a 4-game series with Kim going on the mound against Azalea. Kyle Hendricks started yesterday for the Cubs, was 12-1 in his career against the Cardinals. But somehow the Cardinals got a lead against him in the 6th inning. Cubs tied it up in the 9th, and then the Cardinals won it on a Yadier Molina ground rule double in the bottom of the 10th to take the game 3-2. Cubs will try and even the series at 2 games apiece. I think they lost on Monday. They lost on Tuesday. They won on Wednesday. I think they're going to even the series here. So Cubs-Cardinals finish up a 4-game series. And did you hear the shot heard around the world? No, not Bobby Thompson from 1951. As a Dodgers fan, I was hurt a little bit. I could hear the boom. I don't think I slept very well. No shave. Hat. Don't usually wear a hat. Probably a bad T-shirt. There's probably food on it from last night as well, too. But Wilmer Flores took Kenley Jansen deep in the 9th inning. We'll get to all the details on that. But a 4-2 victory for the Giants. They've taken the first 2 out of 3 in this series in L.A. with 1 more to go. The last time they'll visit L.A. for the season, they're guaranteed to come out of L.A. in first place, and they will get ready for the Pittsburgh Pirates tomorrow night. The Dodgers, I believe, are going to Arizona. I could be wrong, but I'll check that schedule. We'll have that for you tomorrow as well. But Buehler, Anthony DeSclafani, 11 wins now for the San Francisco Giants. Walker Buehler has 9 wins for the Dodgers. He pitched last weekend, got a no decision in that game, but DeSclafani did not win 10 games ever in Cincinnati, and already by the All-Star break, he was a 10-game winner. He's won 11 games this year. He goes up for the Giants tonight, 165 the line, and 7.5 the total. Nighttime air in L.A., 2 good pitchers. You could be looking at under there. The American League, 1 game to start in the American League, and that's at 1 o'clock Eastern. The 4-game series concludes. How about those Detroit Tigers? Their shout out to Michigan. They're playing really well. They're in a tough division right now because everybody is so bad in that division. They got off to such a horrible start. They've got trade pieces as well, too. Every year they've talked about Matthew Boyd, one of their starting pitchers, being on the trade block. He ends up staying past the All-Star break, past the trade deadline. Travis Alexander in a bullpen game for the Tigers, who have played pretty well. A 140 favorite against Mike Fultonevich, the former Brave. 140 and 9.5. The Tigers have won all 3 games of this series. And I go to the baseball standings, I'll tell you that they're on quite a roll right now, are the Tigers. So 1 o'clock Eastern for the Detroit Tigers and Texas Rangers, 140, 9.5 the total. Detroit doesn't score a lot of runs. Texas struggling right now. Of course, Joey Gallo in the middle of that lineup with his 24 home runs. He's on the trade block, as we said. Detroit has won 6 in a row now. They're 5 games under 500, believe it or not, and they're 12.5 back of the White Sox. They may not catch them. Are they in any position for the wild card? They're 9 back in the wild card behind the Oakland A's. But how about that? 6 in a row for A.J. Hinch and the Detroit Tigers. I can see them winning 7 in a row tonight with Travis Alexander on the mound. Game starts at 1 o'clock Eastern. Tampa Bay Rays are 10-0-1 in their last 11 home series this year. They get a walk-off last night against the Baltimore Orioles. They're 140 favorites with Luis Patino, a young right-hander who's got good stuff. They're at Cleveland. Cleveland, who lost 2 out of 3 at Houston. They won yesterday. Cal Quantrill, son of former Major Leaguer Paul Quantrill, is on the mound for the Indians. But a little disrespect for the Indians at 140 on the road. 9 the total. Tampa Bay playing great. Tampa Bay a game back in the American League standings behind the Boston Red Sox, who won yesterday. In in New York, the big series again, Yankees-Red Sox again this weekend. They just played last weekend. Jordan Montgomery at home. Jordan Montgomery on the road against Tanner Houck. That's a bullpen game for the Red Sox. Boston 134, the total 9.5 in Boston tonight, in Fenway. Lots of runs can be scored in that game. You got to think an over may be the way to go. Yankees don't hit, though. That's their problem. They haven't hit all year. They're the worst team with runners in scoring position. They strike out too much. They lost the other day with they took 2 out of 3 from Philadelphia, but the game they lost looked horrible. DJ LeMahieu took Wednesday off in the lineup, took Tuesday off in the lineup, and he's back now in the lineup for the Yankees as well. The Yankees 7 back of Boston, 6 back of Tampa Bay in the wild card. And actually, they are 3.5 back of the A's in the wild card. They've won 4 in a row as they took over Philadelphia. They swept Philadelphia in that series. All right, moving on. Minnesota, Kenta Maeda. Minnesota Twins took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. It's not going to help them in the standings. The most disappointing team in baseball right now, coming off 100 wins. They're a $1.41 favorite against Andrew Heaney and the Los Angeles Angels. 9.5 the total. Like I said, Minnesota, 2 out of 3 against the White Sox. And then the Oakland A's going to Seattle. They just swept the LA Angels of Anaheim, of Orange County, nowhere near Los Angeles Angels. 2 games in that 2-game series. Sean Manaea on the mound against a very underrated Seattle Mariners team. Chris Flexen's had a good year for the Mariners. 7.5 the total, 138 Oakland favored. Seattle only 3.5 games in third place behind the Oakland A's. They're tied with the Yankees in the wild card standings. New York and Seattle both 3.5 back. Toronto 4.5 back. Toronto with that loss yesterday to Boston. They're right there. And then Cleveland 5 back in the wild card. They're 8.5 back in the division, are the Indians. And then we said the Angels are 7.5 back in the wild card standings. So the Angels 7.5 back, still playing for something. Seattle 3.5 back of the A's for second place in the division, as well as the wild card. Oakland and Sean Manaea 7.5, the total 138 for the final American League game. Big schedule coming up tomorrow. All right, let's hit the MLB notes as we get to it. Wilmer Flores, we told you about the 2-run home run off Kenley Jansen last night. San Francisco with a late-night victory on the West Coast, 4-2. The game ended about 1:30 on the East, so probably a lot of you didn't see it. But Wilmer Flores, first hit off Kenley Jansen, first hit ever off Kenley Jansen, 1 for 9 now with a home run, gave them a 2-1 lead, gave the Giants a 2-1 lead. It hurt. Dodger fans, you got to stay classy. Kenley Jansen had a rough time the last couple of years. We get it. I get it. I understand that. I didn't want him closing to open up the year either, but he's been great. 17 hits in 37 and a third innings last night coming into the game, and he blows one. It happens. It's game 1 of 162. I did have money on the game. It did hurt me from that standpoint, but Kenley Jansen's been great. Gabe Kapler managed the game perfectly. Instead of using one of the left-handers for Austin Slater to pinch hit, he brought Buster Posey up as a pinch hitter, and Posey got it going, and Jansen ended up giving it up to Flores. So that's the way it goes. Hopefully the Dodgers can win tonight, but the Dodgers' problems are not Kenley Jansen, are not their pitching problems. They've got injury problems right now. They've missed a lot of guys at various points in time this season. They didn't have Justin Turner in the lineup. He pinch hit last night. They didn't have Turner and Muncy 2 nights ago, and the night they won when Will Smith hit the 3-run walk-off home run off Tyler Rogers. Tyler Rogers, give him credit. He came back in a 2-run game and was able to shut them down 3 up, 3 down in the 9th inning and get the save. So Giants still looking maybe for another starting pitcher or closer. The trade deadline, like I said, a week from tomorrow. See what they do. The Padres and Braves split their series. They have a suspended game to finish up. The rain was so bad yesterday in the second game of that doubleheader. They're going to finish that suspended game sometime down the road if they need to. Cardinals beat the Cubs 3-2 in 10. We talked about it. The Cardinals, with their 4-game series, have one more game with the Cubs this afternoon with Kim on the mound against Azalea. Kansas City sweeps Milwaukee, and now you're looking at Milwaukee 2 games that they've lost. The Milwaukee Brewers are 56-41. They are still have a pretty good lead in the NL Central. They're 6.5 over Cincinnati. We'll get to Cincinnati in a second. St. Louis 7.5 back. The Cubs 8.5 back. And St. Louis did lose the Tuesday game, so they're looking for a 3 out of 4 against the Cubs. Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League Central, they get swept by Arizona. Arizona, only their second home series win of the year this year, and that's a sweep against the Pirates. They did that yesterday afternoon behind Madison Bumgarner, who threw 5 innings and gave up 2 runs. All right, moving on. More MLB notes to talk about here. Boston beats up on Toronto. Said that. They've got the 1-game lead over Tampa Bay. Toronto now 8 back in the standings in the American League East, but they are 4.5 back in the wild card. Toronto off today. Yankees said that's the wrong statement right there. Yankees did not take 2 out of 3. They swept. So let me change that right now. Yankees take 3 out of 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies as we put that up. Yankees take 3 of 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies. Philadelphia has Atlanta coming in tonight. They are 7 back in the wild card of the Padres, but in the divisional standings, Philadelphia is 3.5 back, 4 back in the loss column. The Mets got a big victory. Marcus Stroman went 8 innings for the Mets in a 7-0 win over Cincinnati. What kind of team is Cincinnati going to be? I know Nick Castellanos is out of the lineup. He's been out of the lineup for a week, but their offense is better than that. But to get shut out at home in a day game against the Mets, especially in that park that yields a ton of home runs and a ton of runs, Cincinnati Reds, you have to decide what kind of team you want to be. Now, give Marcus Stroman credit for the game that he pitched, but that was just pure bad offense yesterday by the Reds. They're 6.5 back of the Brewers. St. Louis with their win yesterday, 7.5 back. Chicago, 8.5 back, doesn't lose ground. As we said, the Brewers got swept by Kansas City at home. They've lost 3 out of 4 to Kansas City. Actually, they got swept by Kansas City. They were the American League Central team where they played home and home. They got swept by Kansas City in Missouri, and then they got swept in Wisconsin by the Royals. Maybe they're still celebrating the Bucs win. I saw Christian Yelich at Game 6 after the Tuesday loss. They had to move the time for the Brewers game from 7 o'clock Central to 3 o'clock Central, 4 hours earlier, so that they could accommodate everybody for the Bucs game coming in, because I doubt there would have been anybody. There wasn't very many people at the stadium to begin with, but I don't think there would have been as many more if they had gone up against the Milwaukee Bucks in the championship run that they had last night. So Milwaukee with a comfortable lead, 6.5 games. Excuse me, 6.5 games over Cincinnati, 7.5 over St. Louis. St. Louis, Chicago go tonight. Milwaukee has an off day. In the American League, the A's sweep LA. We said that. They open up a 4-game series against Seattle. Manaea and Chris Flexen tonight. The A's are 3.5 back of the Houston Astros, 3 back of the Houston Astros right now, and 3.5 back in the wild card. Or they have the second wild card. They're 3.5 up on the wild card on the Yankees and Seattle, 4.5 up on Toronto. The A's looking for a good series in Seattle with Manaea on the mound. Seattle, 3 back of the A's in the division, 3 back in the wild card for that second wild card spot as well. Houston took 2 of 3 from Cleveland at home. They lost to the White Sox and the Yankees. The White Sox over the weekend in Chicago, 2 out of 3, Saturday, Sunday. And then before the All-Star break at home, they lost 2 out of 3 and were about ready to get swept until they scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning off of Aroldis Chapman to come back with that 8-7 victory. And then the White Sox, even though they lost 2 out of 3 to the Minnesota Twins, they still maintain an 8.5 game lead over the Cleveland Indians in terms of the AL Central. White Sox 8.5 game lead. Tony La Russa, everybody getting on Tony La Russa for the mistakes he's made. He's got a good team, and maybe in spite of the mistakes, they'll get that division, see how far they can get. Remember, it's a 1-game wild card. It's back to the original rules. It's not a 2 out of 3 wild card, which I think is a bad move for baseball because anything can happen in 1 game, and I'm not sure that's the way baseball should be playing that. But that's the story for another time. All right, more MLB notes. We said Atlanta, Philadelphia. Big series, Atlanta and Philadelphia tonight. They start a 4-game series in Philly. The Atlanta Braves are 1 game back of Philadelphia. They're 4.5 back of the Mets. Philly is 4 back in the loss column. The Mets are 50-43. Philadelphia 47-47. The Braves 2 games under 500, 46-48. They lost 3-2 in game 1 of the doubleheader. The second game got suspended in the 5th inning. They'll make that up later. but that's a 4-game series, and they don't like each other, as you know. Tampa Bay, Cleveland will start a 4-game series. We talked about the A's and the Mariners also starting a 4-game series. Yankees, Boston. Do they play anything but 4-game series? They're going to be in Boston tonight. Tanner Houck, Jordan Montgomery. They'll be all over the network. MLB Network probably tonight, MLB Network tomorrow, Fox on Saturday, ESPN on Sunday. Chicago, St. Louis, LA, San Francisco close out 4-game series, and the MLB trade deadline will end on July 30th at 4 o'clock Eastern. All right, we're going to take a break here, 30 seconds. Going to come back with the world-famous unsponsored pick segment. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for July 22nd, 2021. Vasu Vaddiparty here. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. If you miss any of it, you can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Back in 30 seconds. Vasu Vaddiparty back with you, still reeling from the Dodgers' loss last night, 9th inning late against San Francisco with Kenley Jansen on the mound. Wilmer Flores hit the 2-run home run off the Dodgers closer, who has 24 saves. Had a bad outing last night, the way it goes sometimes, but that's the way it goes. Dodgers looking to even the series tonight. We're on every Monday, Thursday, Friday, 3 Eastern on Monday, noon Eastern on Thursdays, 1 Eastern on Fridays on Facebook and YouTube Live. Again, you can download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcasts. Send in any comments to our email page, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter at mtmarpodcast, as well as all the social media pages for Charlie O and myself, Vasu Vaddiparty in solo, Charlie O on assignment. He'll be back tomorrow. With me, we'll have Nate Miller of The Basement Show, a Fishbowl Radio Network. He'll be on with us at 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. From Texas, he's also a beat writer for the Texas Rangers. A lot of trade talk surrounding the Texas Rangers, as there are a lot of other teams. Who's your team out there in Facebook and YouTube land if you're watching right now? Who's your team? Are you buyers or are you sellers? Send any comments, any questions to us on our email page or on our Facebook comments page right now as well. Don't forget one game coming up at the top of the hour, the Detroit Tigers and those Texas Rangers. Mike Fultonevich for Texas, Travis Alexander, the Tigers on a 6-game winning streak, 140 the line for Detroit, and 9.5 the total for the Rangers and the Tigers at 1 o'clock, the only day game this afternoon. All right, we talked about the Milwaukee Bucks, the NBA champions. We talked about Major League Baseball, all the series, all that was for the week, all that's coming up. We'll preview a lot of the series, break down some of these 4-game series tomorrow. Charlie and I will as well. And, of course, we'll have Nate Miller on to talk trade deadline, Texas Rangers baseball, American League West as well. All right, the world-famous, unsponsored pick segment. Come on, sponsors, let's go. Let's get out there. Here are the games that I have tonight. All baseball. There's nothing else but baseball going on. We'll get into the NBA draft later. Training camp starts in 2 weeks. Big injury in the Rams training camp, by the way. We'll talk about that with Charlie tomorrow. But here are the picks for today. That early game I talked about, the under 9, Detroit, even though they're on a 6-game winning streak, they haven't scored a lot of runs in that, but their pitching has been really good. Their offense has been so-so, but enough to win the games, get them on a 6-game winning streak. Joey Gallo right now, the only guy hitting for the Texas Rangers. Nick Solak having a pretty good year, but I think the 4-2 victory yesterday will lead me to the under 9.5 in the early game. That comes up in a half hour. Detroit, Texas, under 9.5. Later on this afternoon, the Cardinals look to go 3 out of 4 from the Cubs. They're 119 with Kim on the mound against Azalea. That's a pick for me. Charlie Morton, Matt Moore, 4-game series, Philadelphia, Atlanta. They don't like each other. Over 9 is the way to go. That ballpark, lots of runs being scored. Every time they play, there's a lot of runs being scored. So Philadelphia, Atlanta, over 9. In the American League, the Minnesota Twins, 141. Kenta Maeda, been one of their best pitchers all year. He could be on the trade block as well. They've got the LA Angels tonight, Andrew Heaney on the mound. They've got guys who could be traded as well, unless they think they're going to be in the wild card hunt. Minnesota 13.5 back in the wild card, but the Angels 7.5 back in the wild card. They are 10.5 back in the American League West. So we'll see where they are this time next week as far as sellers and buyers are standing pat. Who's your team? Who do you think you guys need? Who do you think your teams need or need to trade? Are you buyers? Are you sellers? Let us know on Facebook and let us know on YouTube. Let us know on Facebook or download, subscribe anywhere. Send us emails. Christine says Tigers, yes. Yeah, they're a little bit back in the division, Christine, but they may have a shot at the wild card. Let me check this wild card standing here. They're 9 back in the wild card. Might be too much to overcome with Tampa Bay, Oakland, New York, Seattle, Toronto, Cleveland, the Angels, and then your Tigers. But they are on a 6-game winning streak, and they deserve a lot of acclaim right now for that because everybody thought they weren't going to win more than 59 games this year. I think was the over-under in Vegas, and they're well on their way to doing that. They're 5 games under 500 at 46 and 51. So Detroit, Texas, under 9.5 early. St. Louis Cardinals, 119 over the Cubs tonight to try and take 3 out of 4. Philadelphia, Atlanta start their 4-game series, over 9. Minnesota, the Angels start. Andrew Heaney on the mound for the Angels. Kenta Maeda, probably on the trade block, 141 for Minnesota. They just took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. You got to think that's going to be a Minnesota game at home. And yes, I'm going back to the well. They've lost 2 out of 3 in San Francisco, have the Dodgers. Walker Buehler been their ace all year. Offense has to get going. Anthony DeSclafani has had a big year for the Giants. He's won 11 games, but I just think Walker Buehler is going to do it. They rarely lose 3 out of 4 to the Giants, although they did this year early, so I shouldn't say rarely lose, but that rarely happens. They did lose in LA 3 out of 4 to the Giants earlier in the year. I think that was Memorial Day weekend when they played. Last game in LA between the Giants and Dodgers this year. What are you thinking, schedule makers? You got to have one more series in September between rivals, but it's not going to be the case. I know they're going to play in San Francisco twice between now and the end of the year. I think the last time they play in San Francisco will be on September 4th, so not even toward the end. It's right around Labor Day weekend. Walker Buehler, make me look good. 155 tonight against the San Francisco Giants. Anthony DeSclafani, good pitcher, great offense. The Giants lead the major leagues in home runs. They're looking at all aspects of it. The best record in baseball still right now. They have 60 wins. They're 60 and 35. They're 2 games up on the Dodgers, 3 up on the loss column, and they are up. Let's see, they're up 4, they're up 7, they're up 5.5 games behind are the Padres, 7 up in the loss column. The Giants are over the Padres. Right now, the Dodgers and Padres have the top 2 wild card spots. The Padres are 3.5 games back of the Dodgers. Going to be a good game tonight. Dodgers looking to split the series. Giants looking to take 3 out of 4. So there you have it. There's the pick segment for today. Charlie O will be back with me tomorrow. We'll have more picks to make. Nate Miller will be on with us from the Fishbowl Radio Network, The Basement Show. Check him out every Wednesdays at 11 o'clock Pacific time, 2 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock Central time. He and Billy Ball do a great job on that show, talking sports and just having normal conversations, regular sports conversations. Ask him about Rob Manfred. I think I'll do that tomorrow. He's very much anti-Rob Manfred in MLB, but we'll talk Texas Rangers baseball. He's a beat writer for them as well, too. Lots of talk to talk about on the trade deadline as well. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, 3 Eastern, noon Eastern, and 1 Eastern, Facebook and YouTube Live, our worldwide, unsponsored, famous picks at the end of each show. You can download, subscribe, rate, and review anywhere you get your podcast. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody on YouTube Live. Thanks to everybody for downloading and subscribing. Send us your comments through email or social media. We really appreciate all the support we get out there. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty for Charlie O, who's off today. He's on assignment. He'll be back with me tomorrow, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live, where we'll have Nate Miller of the Fishbowl Radio Network and The Basement Show as our guest right at 1 o'clock Eastern. Have a great afternoon. Good luck with your games. We'll see you tomorrow. Make the Money and Run podcast for July 22nd, 2021. Have a great afternoon and good luck with your games.